Hello, and welcome back to I Don't Imagine Anyone's Listening, the podcast where I talk about whatever I want because I don't imagine that anyone's listening. I'm your host, Monica Murray Durr, writer, editor, bookseller, podcaster now, and all around internet nobody. This week, haven't decided on the interval yet. This episode, I'm going to be talking about something that I've been thinking about for a while, basically since I started working the job that I have now, which is bookseller, which is fancy for retail worker in store that sells books, better known to you normal people as a bookstore. Yeah, working in a bookstore, it's fun. It's all right. It's a job. It is, however, retail, which if you've ever worked retail, you know what I mean when I say the word retail. And when I say it like that, maybe you don't. Maybe you really like your job. Maybe you're one of the people I'm about to complain about, because that kind of is what I'm about to do, is I'm just gonna whine about my job a little bit. But well, here goes. So, since I started working retail almost 3 years ago now, or I've worked retail before that. Before I started this particular job about 3 years ago, I just realized that there is a certain expectation of extroversion that the whole world has for each other. And it's because the extroverts obviously are going to win this battle because they have the energy to fight it, whereas we introverts are just tired and want to go home. So we never really had a chance. But as a person who works with the public, you're expected to have a certain comfort level with things like small talk and chit chat, and a third thing that means the same thing as those two, because that's a distinction without a difference, isn't it? So no matter the specific thing you're doing whilst interacting with the public, there is a certain expectation that you are going to be smiley, happy, friendly, and just generally having a good time. And most of the time I am having more or less a good time. Like, it's a decent job. I don't hate it. I like the people that I work with. But having to be on all the time is exhausting. And whenever I'm in a position where I have to engage in some chit chat with a random stranger who I am either never going to see again or will not remember the next time I encounter them, I'm reminded of something comedian and writer and actor David Mitchell said about customer service in Britain and how he appreciated the poor customer service in Britain because at least it was honest. And on the one hand, I kind of agree, but on the other hand, I am American, and we do have a different cultural expectation that the customer service employees that we encounter are going to have a can-do attitude. And for the extroverts in the world, not a big deal. For us introverts, I am always trying to find a way to be on like that, but not have to be too fake. And I've gotten better at it for sure. It helps that I took a couple of acting classes in college. Get to flex some of those muscles with the public. But I realized now that I've been in this job for a couple of years that I've actually gotten pretty good at faking enthusiasm for chatting with people, with strangers I'm never going to see again. My comfort level with inane small talk has definitely increased, and my ability to carry on these quasi conversations has definitely improved, to the point that when I'm, say, checking out a customer and I do the general, hi, how are you? Did you find everything? Sort of generic script of questions that we all have. And they are, curt or laconic or just generally unresponsive, not even necessarily rude, though some people definitely are rude. But, you'll get people who sort of just grunt and respond, or they'll just say, yeah, and not even look up. And I find that I'm kind of annoyed with them, even though if I were in their position, I would probably feel the exact same way. Like, I'm never going to see you again. Why do you insist on putting up this facade? So the door definitely swings both ways. It's definitely made me a more empathetic customer whenever I have to go into a store of any kind. I get it. They're just doing their job. Part of their job is coming up to you and being like, do you need anything? And, they're probably relieved when you say, no, I'm just browsing, because then they can go back to getting something done. Because even though it looks like we just stand around, it's actually a lot to do. And when there's nothing to do, we get super bored. And maybe that's when we go and bother people. Not we, other people. I never go around and find random customers to bother, because I would hate that. I find that as a customer, clothing stores are absolutely the worst. Especially those ones where they have to let you in to the dressing room, because I find clothes shopping awkward and uncomfortable anyway, because you have to take your clothes off. Obviously not in front of people. That would be extra weird. But there is a certain vulnerability where you go into a store, touch all the clothes that you don't intend to buy, grab a few, go into this badly lit room, and then have to judge yourself and whether or not you can pull this thing off, or you actually look as good as you think you do. But anyway, that's a different thing. Getting back to whatever the heck it was I was talking about. Oh yeah, retail small talk. Yeah, so I find that I realize that when those people are short or reticent, unwilling to talk, I'm just flexing my vocabulary at this point. I have to remember that if I was in their position, I would feel the exact same way. And I have become the very thing that I sought to destroy. What I'm getting at is that, in this country anyway, the world is set up for extroverts. And I'm not saying that there needs to be an enormous cultural shift to accommodate me and my preferences, but I think on the whole, being more imaginative, getting better at putting ourselves in other people's shoes instead of being, as I am, annoyed with these people's responses, and remembering, oh yeah, if we weren't standing on opposite sides of the counter, I would probably be doing the same thing. Also, as someone who is uncomfortable with prolonged eye contact, I have to remember that if people look away from me, they probably are feeling the exact same way I am, but they are not being paid to act like they're not. So I shouldn't expect them to have the same level of excitement about this pretend conversation that we're about to have, because they came in looking for something and I need to help them find it, or they finally found what they're looking for and they just want to buy it and get on with their day, because same. Because then, it also swings the other way when you have a extroverted customer, and I find when the other person is more extroverted than me, which is most people, but when the other person is certainly acting more extroverted than me, then I tend to fill the role of the introverted person. And if someone is very eager to have a chat with me, I clam up. These all just might be signs that I need to work in a different field. Probably what it is, but hey, a job's a job, and one doesn't go quitting gainful employment just because one doesn't like it. Or does one? I'll have to get back to you on that. Anyway, I think I had a point in here somewhere. Who knows? I don't think I ever really have a point about anything. But that's kind of the point of this now, isn't it? Right. So when the other person is filling the role of more extroverted conversee, is that a word? More extroverted person in the conversation. And then I tend to go the other way. Like, I feel like every conversation requires these two roles to be filled, and I am capable of filling both of them. So I just feel the need. I find this usually happens at checkout when I'm trying to do something like math. This is always the people paying cash too. The cash payers are always the chattiest. And so I'm trying to do math, like make change or whatever, make sure I got all the discounts right. And they want to have a chat always about stuff that I have no interest in, because it's always the people who read like trashy romance and they want to know if I know anything about it. I'm like, no, I don't read these. It's really hard to keep myself from saying to certain people, I don't know, I don't read trash. But you can't say that to people. People don't like it when you call what they're reading trash. They can call it that, but you can't. It's always the people who want to have a chat who want to have said chat while I am trying to do something, and then I get really annoyed. I think as a society we all need to be more comfortable with silence and not needing to fill every void with chatter. I am definitely guilty of this in another way. Like, I am usually listening to podcasts or have the TV on in the background, or have got a spare 10 minutes, so I fill them with a YouTube video instead of something productive. I don't want to accuse the extroverts of giving us a shallow society. I don't think they deserve all the blame for that. I don't know if they can really claim any of the blame for that. Does one claim blame, or does one have blame foisted upon them? That's a question. And maybe a customer service setting is not the place to take up this crusade. But it's kind of the only public setting I'm ever in. So if you happen to ever encounter me in a customer service situation where you are the customer and I am the servicer, that sounded filthy and I can only apologize. But if you ever find yourself on the customer half of a customer service situation where I'm the other half, and I seem reluctant to make small talk with you, this is why. I don't want to speak for all extroverts. Excuse me, I can't speak for any extroverts. I don't want to speak for all introverts, but I think quite a few of us have the feeling that introverted people are often disregarded in public situations, where the extroverts, because they're so excited to be around all the other people, they forget that we introverts, we're happy to be out of the house, we like to be included, but we also are okay if you ignore us a bit. I mean, not entirely, but we like our corners. We like to sit there. I don't know what this has to do with what I was saying before, but if you happen to cross me and you are my customer and I am less than loquacious, it's because I don't have anything to contribute. And maybe extend that to all. Not all. Maybe extend that to other customer service representatives that you encounter, because they might be in a similar situation where they're just trying to get through the day. If you're interested in a more eloquent exploration of this topic, I can recommend Jessica Pan's book, I'm Sorry I'm Late, I Didn't Want to Come, because I believe the subtitle, I can't remember the American subtitle. The British subtitle is An Introvert's Year of Living Dangerously. And so for a full year, she forced herself to do things well outside her comfort zone, up to and including stand-up comedy. So, and it's a very funny book, very good take on the difference between introverts and extroverts and how we interact with each other. And tolerate each other. Tolerate's probably not the right word, but how we society together. Well, I don't know if I succeeded in rambling any less than last time, but I think it's probably good to call it there. If this is the first time you've listened, go back and listen to the previous episode where I talk about writing in books. And I have opinions on that because I have opinions on everything. If you listened to that before and you decided you wanted to come back for more, thank you for coming back. More episodes will be forthcoming at a, as of yet, undetermined interval. But once I've decided what that interval is, y'all will be the first to know. If you like what you heard and you would like some more, subscribe, rate, share, etc. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mon Takes Pics and Mon Writes Tweets, respectively. I also have a website, monicamurder.com, which is a work in progress, but it does exist, which is an achievement for me. So thank you for listening, and I hope you come back, and I will see you next time.